The silence before the flame. You find yourself in the heart of medieval stillness, a world ruled by faith, silence, and the rhythm of bells. But under the surface, minds begin to stir. Beneath stone cloisters and whispered prayers, small sparks of reason wait to rise. This is where the hidden story begins, where darkness gives birth to light. The night stretches long over the stone rooftops of a medieval town. You can almost hear it, the slow toll of the cathedral bell echoing through the still air like a heartbeat. Each strike folds into the next, marking not just the passage of time, but the rhythm of a world enclosed in faith. Candles flicker in narrow windows, their light trembling against walls that have stood for centuries. The streets are empty, washed in moonlight and quiet, as though the earth itself has paused to listen. You walk through this silence. The air feels heavy, not with fear, but with belief. Above you, the sky is ink dark, a canvas of quiet stars. Each one burns faintly, unnoticed, as prayers rise from wooden chapels below. This is an age before the hum of machines, before the bright glare of cities. It is a time when mystery reigns, and knowledge sleeps under the weight of devotion. Everywhere you look, symbols of faith rise from the earth, crosses carved into doors, saints painted on fading walls, scriptures whispered by candlelight. The world is wrapped in certainty. God is the answer to every question. The sun rises because he wills it. The rain falls because his mercy allows it. The rhythm of life flows through the same unquestioned cycle, season after season. And yet, something stirs beneath the silence. In monasteries, where monks copy sacred texts by hand, a quiet rebellion begins to take shape, not with fire or sword, but with thought. You can almost see it. A scholar, his quill hovering above parchment, pausing to wonder, what lies beyond these pages? His candle burns low, melting wax pooling like time itself. He dares to think of the stars not as divine lanterns, but as distant worlds. He wonders if light itself has a law, a pattern, a reason. The air around him hums faintly with the birth of a question. Outside, the town sleeps, its people unaware of the slow, invisible flame being kindled in hidden minds. But this flame is fragile. To ask too much is to risk everything. In this world, curiosity is a dangerous art. You imagine a young healer mixing herbs under the dim light of dawn. She knows that certain plants ease pain, others bring sleep, and some can still a fevered heart. But she cannot say why. To wonder too deeply would invite suspicion. And so she works in quiet rhythm, her hands guided by instinct, her thoughts folded neatly beneath her silence. This is how knowledge survives. Not through open speech, but through whispers, through observation disguised as faith, through patterns noticed and remembered. Even the wind seems to know this secret rhythm. It moves softly through the fields, bending wheat and grass in patterns that repeat themselves like the notes of a prayer. The moon reflects in the river, its silver ripples spreading outward, endless and calm. Somewhere, in that reflection, you can feel the pulse of something timeless, the same curiosity that will one day light telescopes, stir machines, and split atoms. But for now, it waits. It waits in the quiet hum of candlelit rooms. It waits in the minds of healers, alchemists, and dreamers. It waits in the silence before the flame. The stars above remain unchanged, their cold light falling across sleeping villages. But beneath that light, a subtle shift is happening. You can feel it like a tremor in the air, the faint beginning of reason pressing gently against the walls of belief. You pass by a cathedral garden, where a monk tends to his herbs. His robe brushes the dew, and he murmurs a verse under his breath. Yet as he leans closer to a leaf, He notices the perfect geometry of its veins, the fractal symmetry, the design within design. For a moment, his prayer pauses. He sees not just faith, but pattern, order, mathematics written in green. He looks up at the stars. They blink like countless candles against the blackness. For the first time, he wonders if heaven truly moves around the earth, or if perhaps the earth itself is turning. The thought frightens him. He crosses himself, extinguishes his candle, and returns inside. But the question lingers, like smoke in the air. Across the centuries, such questions gather, one by one, like embers in the dark. The Church holds the power of knowledge, and to challenge it is to challenge the divine order itself. Yet, no decree, no threat, no fire can fully silence the human need to understand. In secret chambers, manuscripts pass from hand to hand, writings of long-forgotten thinkers, fragments of Greek philosophy, texts that whisper of a world governed by numbers, not miracles. These are the seeds of awakening, and you, standing in this quiet world, can almost hear them sprout. The wind changes. A single candle flickers out, and the shadows shift across the walls. It feels as though the whole world is holding its breath, waiting for something unseen to ignite. Time drifts slowly here. Days blur into nights, prayers into seasons. Empires rise and crumble. But the human mind, restless and relentless, keeps searching beneath it all. It begins in simple ways. A blacksmith noticing the heat of metal glowing in predictable color, a sailor realizing that the stars guide him true, a midwife recording the moon's influence on birth. These are small truths, soft and steady, each one a heartbeat of discovery. Centuries will pass before their rhythm becomes music, before the questions they raise become the great symphony of science. But every song begins with silence, and this is that silence. Listen closely now. The air around you hums with the weight of potential. You can almost hear the whisper of a match before it strikes, the scent of smoke not yet born, the idea of light before the first spark. The world sleeps, unaware of its coming dawn. But beneath this stillness, thought is gathering like thunder behind distant hills. When it breaks, it will change everything. The way we see the stars, the earth, even ourselves. For now, you remain in the hush before awakening. In the hush where every question is still possible. In the silence before the flame. And as you breathe in this silence, you feel the first warmth of thought rise within you. Small, uncertain, but alive. Somewhere in the distance, another bell begins to ring, slow and solemn. Each sound a reminder. Time moves forward, even when we do not see it. The candle wavers. The air softens. And in that fragile light, the age of faith begins to tremble, making way for something new, something brighter, something inevitable. You do not yet know its name, but you can feel it coming. A quiet fire that will one day reshape the world. And as the flame begins to whisper in the dark, the question takes form, gentle and persistent. If light can rise from shadow, what else waits to be discovered? In the glow of secret fires, alchemists dream of gold and transformation. Healers grind herbs by candlelight, guided by instinct and forgotten wisdom. Each experiment, each remedy, is a quiet act of defiance, a bridge between myth and method, belief and discovery. The seeds of modern science begin to root in secrecy. The air is thick with the scent of smoke and something faintly metallic. You stand in a dim room, its walls lined with bottles and bowls, powders and strange instruments. A single flame dances beneath a small brass pot, flickering against the glass. This is no temple, yet here too, reverence lives. Not for gods, but for transformation. The alchemist moves slowly, almost ceremonially. His hands, stained by years of work, hover over the flame as though it could whisper back its secrets. Around him, shelves groan under the weight of knowledge both imagined and real. Fragments of Aristotle, whispers of Egypt, the dust of forgotten stars. He does not separate magic from science. To him, they are the same river, flowing from different springs. You watch him stir a glowing mixture, the color shifting from gold to violet, then to the deep blue of twilight. He believes that within these colors lies the essence of nature. That metal, when purified enough, can become perfect, can become gold. The dream of alchemy is not just wealth, but redemption. To turn base into pure, flawed into flawless. And perhaps, in that dream, something true hums beneath the myth. Because what is alchemy, if not the earliest language of change? The human desire to transform one thing into another, to learn the hidden rules that bind matter and motion. The alchemist's world is half shadow, half light, a mixture of superstition and observation. He may speak of spirits trapped in metals, but when he distills, grinds, and burns, he learns the behavior of matter. Each failure teaches him a pattern, each explosion, a law. You imagine him stepping back from his bench, watching the fire fade to ember. The silence after the spark feels almost holy. He does not know it, but he stands at the edge of something vast, the beginning of chemistry. Outside his window, the medieval world still breathes in faith. Bells toll and prayers rise into the night air. But here, in this secret chamber, another prayer is being written, not in words, but in smoke, in color, in the soft whisper of heat against glass. Not far away, in a different corner of the same age, a woman bends over a wooden table. Her name will never be remembered, yet her hands carry the wisdom of generations. Dried roots, crushed petals, vials of clear oil, her world is the world of healing. She moves by instinct, guided by patterns observed through time. This leaf cools a fever. That flower dulls pain. Her remedies come from earth and memory. The room smells of lavender and damp soil. Her fingers stain green as she grinds a new mixture, careful, measured, patient. She cannot read Latin texts or debate philosophy, yet her practice is its own form of science. Observation, testing, memory. She notes what works, what fails. She trusts her senses as her instruments. And though her knowledge grows in silence, it travels, carried from village to village, whispered across borders, written in secret letters by midwives, apothecaries, and herbalists. Over centuries, this quiet network of healing becomes a hidden backbone of discovery. You can almost hear their rhythm, mortar against stone, pestle turning like a heartbeat. The sound repeats, grounding the moment. In a time ruled by faith, these small acts of curiosity are both rebellion and devotion. To heal, to experiment, to question, all are ways of reaching for something divine in the material world. There is beauty in that balance. Because while kings seek gold and priests seek heaven, the alchemist and the healer both seek understanding, the transformation of the unseen into the seen. You move through centuries like mist. In one candlelit cellar, a philosopher boils mercury, its silver sheen writhing like liquid moonlight. He writes of its power to marry with other metals, never realizing that he's glimpsing the behavior of elements, the earliest whispers of atomic theory. In another, a young apprentice watches lead soften in the crucible. He does not see failure in its dullness. He sees mystery. He wonders what invisible force governs this change. That wondering, that spark, is the same that drives the scientist of the future. Alchemy, though wrapped in metaphor, begins to peel back the fabric of nature. From it, words like sublimation, distillation, solution emerge, not just mystical acts, but scientific ones. The laboratory, once an alchemist's den, will become the birthplace of chemistry. But here, in this shadowed time, nothing is certain. Experiments are dangerous. Curiosity can be heresy. Fire can purify or destroy, depending on who is watching. And so, the pursuit of knowledge remains hidden behind veils of secrecy and code. They write in symbols. They hide recipes in allegory. Lions devouring the sun, serpents eating their tails, the marriage of red and white. These are not only poetic disguises, but metaphors for the balance between opposites, heat and cold, body and spirit, matter and soul. Beneath the art lies a deep intuition that nature itself is a dialogue between forces, and transformation is its language. You pause to breathe in the scene, smoke curling upward, mingling with whispers. It feels sacred, almost ancient, yet familiar, because within you too lies that same impulse to transform, to understand, to see pattern in chaos. As centuries unfold, the alchemist's symbols evolve. The philosopher's stone, once imagined as a source of immortality, becomes a metaphor for discovery itself. The search for gold becomes the search for truth. From these experiments rise the first glimpses of real science, glassware shaped for precision, substances measured by proportion, not by faith. The flame that once symbolized divine fire now stands for energy, for change, for motion. Meanwhile, healers continue their quiet work. In distant villages, they watch as certain leaves dull pain faster than prayer. Some boil bark to reduce fever, unknowingly brewing the early chemistry of medicine. Each small success becomes a spark. Each act of care, a note in the long song of understanding. And yet, fear never leaves their world. For every discovery there is danger. To claim that nature holds its own laws is to risk the wrath of the powerful. But the flame spreads anyway. Ideas move faster than chains. You picture a young apprentice one night, a boy tending a fire beneath glass. He watches colors change and wonders if the world itself might be made of such transformations. That thought, tiny, fragile, travels through time. It will echo in the minds of Boyle, Lavoisier, and Newton. But for now, the night remains thick with secrecy. You stand again in the alchemist's room. The brass pot glows faintly. The air hums with the slow pulse of discovery. He lifts a vial of distilled water, holds it to the flame, and smiles. Not because he has found gold, but because he has found meaning in the process. He has learned that transformation is not just of metals, but of the mind. You feel the warmth of the fire on your hands. Its glow is gentle, rhythmic, alive. It flickers like thought itself, elusive, yet real. The shadows on the wall seem to move with purpose, shaped by light, by heat, by time. And you realize something beautiful. Even in darkness, knowledge finds its own light. The alchemist's world, though bound by superstition, lays the foundation of a greater truth, that nature can be read, like a book, if only one learns its language. That language is forming now, one observation at a time. The healer's herbs become medicine. The alchemist's flame becomes experiment. The dream of transformation becomes the law of energy. Every act of curiosity, however small, reshapes the world. The fire crackles. The scent of smoke deepens. You feel the centuries shifting beneath your feet, the world leaning closer to understanding, yet still caught between faith and reason. Outside, dawn begins to stir. The first light seeps through narrow windows, falling across the scattered instruments of the night's labor. The alchemist pauses, eyes caught in the reflection of the rising sun. For a moment, it feels as if the world itself is transforming. Darkness into light, dream into day, myth into science. He closes his eyes. The flame dies softly. In its afterglow, you sense the quiet beginning of something vast. The age when thought will no longer hide in shadows, but stand in the open light of reason. But that light has not yet come. The world still whispers in secrecy. And in that whisper, something deeper forms. A question that hums quietly, endlessly. If matter can change, can thought too transform the world? You drift toward the horizon of change, where silence softens into song, and knowledge steps into the dawn. The plague, the stars, the sketches of curious minds. All push humanity toward awakening. As the dark centuries fade, you sense it. The world is remembering how to think again. The first light does not arrive all at once. It comes softly, like the breath before a word, like the faint paling of night before dawn. You can almost feel the world holding its breath. After centuries wrapped in silence and faith, the mind begins to stir again. You stand at the edge of this changing horizon, watching as a thin silver glow stretches over the medieval sky. The air is still cool, still uncertain, but in its quiet shimmer, you can sense the birth of something vast. Not yet a sunrise, but no longer night. It begins not with triumph, but with tragedy. In the 1300s, the plague sweeps across continents, leaving cities hollow and silent. You can hear the echo of empty bells, the whisper of wind through abandoned streets. Whole families vanish. Villages fade into memory. For those who survive, faith wavers. The old order, the divine certainty that once governed every thought, trembles beneath the weight of loss. And in that trembling, a question takes root. Why? You imagine a scholar by candlelight, staring at a page of scripture that no longer answers what he feels. Outside, the world rots and burns, and the heavens give no reply. So he looks elsewhere, to the body, to the sky, to the soil, beneath his feet. For the first time in centuries, the human gaze begins to turn outward again, toward the world itself. This is where the dawn begins, not in sudden revelation, but in slow, aching curiosity. The plague, though cruel, becomes a teacher. It forces people to look closer, at illness, at the human body, at cause and effect. Healers who once prayed for miracles now notice patterns. Those who bury the dead begin to wonder about contagion, air, and touch. In these quiet, desperate observations, the first threads of modern medicine begin to weave. You walk through a silent square where once fear ruled every breath. The smell of smoke and herbs lingers, the faint scent of both death and cleansing. The people who survive are changed, humbled, aware of fragility, but also hungry to understand. Across Europe, small fires of thought begin to light. Scholars rediscover forgotten texts, Aristotle, Archimedes, Galen. Ancient libraries are dusted open. The wisdom of Greece and the curiosity of Islam travel through fragile scrolls and fading ink. From Baghdad to Florence, ideas move again, like wind through a once-closed room. You can almost hear it, the gentle rustle of pages, the sound of minds awakening. In Florence, painters begin to watch light fall differently on stone. In Venice, glassmakers study how color bends through molten sand. In monasteries, monks copy not just prayers but diagrams, circles, patterns, sketches of machines that move like living creatures. You walk among them, unseen, feeling their wonder. You sense how observation becomes art, and art becomes inquiry. In the hands of Leonardo da Vinci, curiosity takes shape like breath itself. You can see him, quill in hand, sketching the muscles of a human arm beside the curve of a bird's wing. He studies water as if it were thought, moving endlessly, shaping everything. In his notebooks, the world begins to split open, not into mystery, but into possibility. He sees connections everywhere, between wind and sound, between flight and anatomy, between beauty and mathematics. And through him, you begin to sense the true language of nature returning: pattern, proportion, balance. But Leonardo is only one note in a rising song. Across Europe, others begin to hear it too. Copernicus studies the stars, daring to suggest that Earth itself moves. The heavens, once divine and untouchable, become objects of measure. Telescopes and lenses sharpen sight, and the night sky, once ruled by faith, becomes a map of questions. You look up now. The same stars that once glimmered over monks and kings seem different. They are no longer eyes of gods, but distant suns, burning with physics yet to be written. Their light carries secrets: motion, gravity, time. The world feels wider now, and quieter too. Because true awakening does not come with noise, it comes with stillness. The stillness of a mind learning to see again. In a small workshop in Italy, Galileo polishes glass, holds it to the moon, and sees craters, shadows, mountains of stone. The heavens are no longer perfect. They are worlds, each one scarred, each one real. This single act of looking closer is enough to shift the universe. You breathe with him, sharing the moment. His discovery is not just scientific, it is human. It reminds you that wonder begins with observation, with the courage to see what is truly there, not what tradition insists must be. The flame of reason that once flickered in monasteries now burns in laboratories and studios. It lights maps, instruments, and minds. The night that once smothered thought begins to loosen its hold. Yet even as light returns, shadows linger. The church watches carefully. Old beliefs resist change. Many thinkers must hide their ideas behind metaphor or face punishment for what they see. But the tide cannot be turned. The rhythm of thought has already begun. And so, the Renaissance unfolds like dawn across the continent, slow, golden, unstoppable. You can almost feel it warming the air. The rebirth of curiosity, of perspective, of self. People begin to see their place not as subjects beneath the heavens, but as observers within them. The idea of humanity shifts, from humble servants to seekers, creators, explorers. You pass through a bustling square in Florence. Painters grind pigments beside mathematicians who draw perfect circles in the dust. Architects measure cathedrals not only for faith, but for form, for beauty rooted in geometry. Music, once prayer, becomes experiment. Sound explored as vibration and pattern. Everywhere, the senses awaken. The mind stretches toward the horizon. And yet, the world does not change overnight. The shadow of ignorance still clings to its corners. Disease still takes lives. Superstition still whispers in the dark. But above all of it, there is motion. The quiet hum of progress. You close your eyes and for a moment, imagine the centuries breathing as one. A long exhale of darkness, followed by a slow inhale of light. The Renaissance, though born of pain, becomes an act of collective remembering. Humanity begins to recall what it once knew. That knowledge is not a threat to the divine, but its reflection. The night is ending, but it does not vanish. It lingers, soft and blue at the edges, reminding the dawn of where it came from. For every question answered, 1,000 more are born. That is the beauty of awakening. It never finishes. You open your eyes to a new world, a place of maps and movement, of discovery by sea and sky. Ships sail beyond sight, guided by instruments that measure stars, not prayers. The earth becomes round again, vast again. Somewhere, a compass needle quivers over its secret magnet, and a scholar notes how invisible forces shape the world. In another room, a clockmaker listens to the steady rhythm of time, imagining how it might be captured, counted, understood. Everywhere, the universe begins to open, layer by layer, shadow by shadow. You walk through it slowly, feeling both the beauty and the ache of it. The more humanity learns, the more it sees how little it knows. The mystery deepens, not fades. Knowledge does not erase wonder, it refines it. The sun now rises over the horizon of history. The first beams touch parchment, glass, and skin. You watch the light crawl across the floor of Galileo's room, across the pages of Leonardo's sketches, across the eyes of a young apprentice holding a lens to the sky. The long night has not been wasted. Every silence, every question, every spark of courage, all have led here. The world has remembered how to think. And as the dawn unfolds, you sense the next step waiting. The moment when wonder becomes method, when curiosity becomes law, when thought turns into experiment. You can almost feel it forming in the air. A pulse of precision, a hunger for proof, a rhythm of cause and effect. The dream of knowledge is about to become something greater. The night is behind you now, but its memory still whispers. What if understanding itself could be measured?